afternoon and salam. I am Miriam Afalabi, a member of the MACFEST team. Welcome to MACFEST 2022 Ramadan Festival. This afternoon, we are thrilled to take you to Pakistan for the second Ramadan Festival to celebrate Ramadan and Pakistan's cultural heritage with Moneeza Hashmi and Sumera Khalil. I am also delighted to announce that Moneeza Ji will be launching a book, In Conversations with My Father, with MACFEST today, and a book launch event will be held later in London. Now let me take you to Lahore in Pakistan to meet Moneeza and Sumera. Moneeza Ji is the daughter of Faiz Ahmad Faiz, who is a renowned Pakistani poet. She's a famous media personality in Pakistan with over 4 decades of experience working in public media. She's also the first female to be appointed as the chairperson Board of Governors of Pakistan's Art Council. She's also the recipient of various national and international awards. One of the most prestigious ones that she has received is the President of Pakistan's Pride of Performance Award in 2002 for the contribution in portrayal of women in electronic media of Pakistan. Next is Sumera Khalil, the second host for today's event. Sumera is an educationist, a host, moderator, writer, as well as a storyteller, and has been the festival coordinator for the Faiz Festival for the past 7 years. The Faiz Festival is an annual literary and cultural event that is organized to mark the birthday of the celebrated poet Faiz Ahmad Faiz. They will show us what it's like to celebrate Ramadan in Pakistan and also entertain us with Pakistan's festival and artifacts. Thank you, Moneeza Ji and Sumera, for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mariam, for a lovely introduction. And Assalamu alaikum to everybody who's watching us. A very, very warm welcome from Lahore, Pakistan. Today, we are going to talk about Ramadan, which is going on in Pakistan these days, and everything in Pakistan, and I think around all the Muslim countries, revolves around Ramadan when in this time of the year. And today, I am delighted to talk to one of the leading women of Pakistan. As Mariam just told you, she has worked a lot, tremendously in media, and other than that, she has held many positions. And the best part, which I think should be mentioned when we are talking about Moneeza Hashmi, that she has done a lot of firsts in her life. We'll talk about that as well in the later part. And another thing which is very important, that we will be talking to her about her book as well. So let me share my screen with all of you. But before that, let's say hi to Moneeza Hashmi, and let's hear from her, because she's fasting as well, that how is her Ramadan going?
Assalamu alaikum, and very warm. When I say warm, then definitely very warm. It's 40 plus. It is really very, very, because it's a month.
I think the internet is a little distorted at her end. So let me share my screen with all of you so that we can talk about Ramadan in this part of the country. And we'll talk about the Sahri time, the Sahurs, we'll talk about the sighting of the moon. So we'll take you to a gradual journey of Ramadan in our part of the world. So let me share the screen with all of you.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
I know, but yes. Let's talk about Ramadan one after another. So what we are going to do today is that we will start with Ramadan. As you can see in front of you, the screen is there, that we will talk about when the Ramadan is approaching, and then the moon is sighted, and then we prepare for the Sahur and the prayers and the rituals, because obviously in this part of the year, in this time of the year, everything revolves basically around around Ramadan. Then Iftar, that's the time when we break our fast. And then the prize, the award, the reward of Ramadan, and that's in the form of Eid. And then we will be talking about the cultural heritage of Pakistan, which involves a lot of festivals. We will be talking about Pakistan in general, but particularly about Lahore and the throbbing life of Lahore, how happening is life of Lahore. And then we will talk about Moneeza Hashmi's book, which is Conversations with My Father, 40 years on, at A Daughter Responds. So let me see, I guess there is some internet connection problem on her side, and she will be joining us soon.
Sumera,
yes.
Tariq Wazir has joined us, our special guest, and as he has to leave early, maybe he can speak now. So
Sure,
Mariam,
sure.
would you like to introduce, please? Thank
Sure, sure.
Okay, yes. I would like to introduce our one of our chief guests, Tariq Wazir, who is the Consul General of Pakistan in the United Kingdom. Thank you, Tariq, for presiding over our event, and over to you.
I think he has just disappeared.
Yes, okay. Looks like he has left us now. Sorry for that.
Okay, if he was here, then okay.
Thanks, Sister Munira at Sumera. Please, you can carry on then.
That's what I'm thinking. Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Let me continue. Yes. So you're back. Yes, you're back.
Oh,
yes, you're back with us.
We do just for 1 hour and we go off. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I am starting to share my screen again, and we'll talk about the time when. Yes. So, Miss Moneeza, I would ask you, tell us something about the Ramadan of your childhood. So, what we have in front of us is the sighting of the moon. So, how exciting it was in your time.
Right. Okay, your time, she says, your time suddenly makes you feel 100 years old. Not exactly, but getting.
This internet today is, and this is technology is something which is no one's friend, as all of you can see. So her video keeps on freezing. Let's see if she can. Okay, let me request, as I request her to
yes or no?
Thank you.
Now we can hear you. Now we can hear you.
Yeah. If somebody could send me the link on the phone, I'll join from my phone. That might be easier.
Yes, Mariam, if you could do that, or Steve could do that. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now a little bit?
Yes, we can.
Better?
Yes, we can. Yes, better. We can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes.
After all this preparation, we start. Okay, so when I was young, I remember this was the excitement of the fact that Ramadan is coming, and we didn't say Ramadan then, we said Ramazan with a Z. And it was Ramadan is coming, and then suddenly it used to be tonight, which reminds me of the song of West Side Story, tonight. Anyway, so we would all collect and look towards the west and focus because we had to see the moon with our own eyes. And sometimes if you were lucky enough and you had a roof to get up to, you would climb on the rooftop, and the whole families, as you can see in this photograph at the bottom, would be focused in that direction, looking towards the west. And the moon, the Ramadan moon, as we call it, or the first moon of Ramadan, is like a sliver. It's a sliver of silver. And it comes out for, they say very briefly, for about maybe 5 to 7 minutes, sometimes even 10. And if you're not lucky that day, possibly depending on the month, because as we know, Ramadan is lunar. So we go by the moon. There were times when we were into monsoons. There were times when we were into the winter. So at times they were difficult to actually see it of the sky and because of the atmosphere of the sky. The only time that I remember seeing it very clearly used to be in the summer. That's when we used to see it. And so we would stand, and if, oh, look, and that would be the lots and say, look over there. And of course they said, look in the direction of my finger, look in the direction of my finger. I can't see. To go on, and by that time the moon used to disappear. Anyway, sound of the great drums, because everybody in the house around, in the vicinity, in the community had seen it.
Yes, so she was talking about the sighting of the moon, which used to be, I would say, similar in our childhood as well, that when everybody would get on the roof and everybody would point towards the moon if they are able to, they're lucky enough to see it.
Grow older, as there is the radio that informs you, and there is, of course, now it's been disbanded, but there was a committee, and that committee used to put up a huge, long telescope, and they used to stand behind it and watch it. And then there had to be sighting of the moon. That's what it's called. Sighting of the moon would come up from okay. All right. So a sighting of the moon would come up.
Okay. So she was talking about the sighting of the moon, and then we will move on to the Sahur, because once the moon is sighted and everybody has seen it, and everybody, then the elderlies of the house, the women.
Get, what shall we say, witness. Then comes the next morning. And the next morning is when you're eating and getting ready, which is called the Sahri. If you can hear me, I hope you can.
Yes, yes, we can. We can.
In every household in Pakistan, but I remember when we were young, there used to be a huge situation when who wants to eat what in the morning, because the person who was the cook was the person who was the most difficult, had the most difficult job, because they had to get up an hour earlier. Now, obviously, we all know that Ramadan is from the morning, from dawn to dusk. So sometimes if you are, as we go into the summer, it would come at even about 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. So the person who was cooking had to get up 1 hour earlier. So that was a very difficult job. So there are, you can either eat. Usually what happens is that sometimes you would have an egg or have a toast or something like that. Or some people would even have a full meal, like the meal for the next day, and so on and so forth. So that you can see lots of food on the table and lots of food there. Then come the day. The day is the difficult part, because the winter is fine when the Ramadan comes in December or January, it's fine. You don't even know. It finishes, but otherwise. But of course, there are prayers, rituals. It's time to reflect. It's time to sit back and think about your life. It's time to do a little bit of your connecting with Allah and saying your prayers. And there's one very important ritual that happens, or one very important tradition, and that's the fact that we all Muslims must read and finish the Quran in that 1 month, because the Quran, as we know, came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the month of Ramadan. So we finish the Quran every day. We read one chapter each, so that towards the end of the Ramadan, we have finished the complete Quran and we have read it and understood it, hopefully, and hopefully we'll follow it. So that's the prayers and the ritual. And then after that, of course, we are all preparing for Eid, which is fantastic.
You forgot to mention Iftar.
Oh my goodness, how can I forget it? It's sitting right here.
Yeah.
It's sitting right next to me because I'm fasting.
Yes.
And then, of course, the preparation what do you want to eat today? What shall we eat today? Can I have ice cream? Can I have this? And towards the middle of the day, suddenly your mouth starts watering at the thought of it. Of course, every family has different things to eat. We usually break our fast, mostly in Pakistan, with a date, because that is a tradition, because that is what we know, that our Prophet, peace be upon him, would break his fast with. So that is how it begins. And then, of course, depending on the time of year, if it's very hot like it is now, then I gulp down at least water or something. In the winter, then you want to have a cup of tea, and so on and so forth. So there are different snacks. You have
Okay,
different snacks
before we move
and
on
you
to
break.
Eid, okay, before we move on to Eid, I see that Tariq Wazir Sahab is here. So he's the Consul General of Pakistan in England. So let's hear him, and I just pass it over to Mariam so that she can take up and we can listen to him. Mariam, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sumera. So apologies for the previous disappointment. So like Councillor Tariq Wazir is finally back. So I would like to hand over to him to say a few words about for the festival. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon from the Northern Hemisphere. I'm actually in South Africa at the moment, and about to take off for the airport to come back to Manchester. Manchester, a city that I have come to love so much. But thank you for having me to speak a bit about the topic that you have is a topic that everybody wants to talk about these days, because we are in the midst of Ramadan, and people want to know, people who are not Muslims, they want to know what it is exactly. And I appreciate Kasra and her team for MACFEST, of course, for taking these initiatives. I mean, unless we talk to each other, unless we provide these opportunities for people like us to speak, and for people like our friends on the other side to listen and understand what it all is about. There are, of course, commonalities. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes. Go ahead.
Cool. So that there was a bit of an echo. I thought that I was not audible. So the thing is this, fasting has different connotations in different religions, but it is there in almost the religions that I know about. And it is nice to see people who would want to understand each other's perspective on it. And in my 2 cents on Ramadan and on practices like this is quite simple, actually. I think these are those practices, those religious duties that we undertake, basically, which are not just part of our religion, but they're also part of our social milieu and our culture as well. Because there are so many things which are playing up, and as we just heard the learned speaker, it starts with something, and then there's a whole procedure, whole process, things that might be different in different parts of the world according to cultures that have become part of this whole Ramadan. I call it an institution, actually. I was in, if I can share this with you, I was in Dubai, and I was posted there, and I could see these, during Ramadan in the evenings, in the afternoons, actually, these big tents, where there would be food available, for people who would be needy and who would need to break their fast, and you would not know actually who those people were who were managing them. And it was such a beautiful practice, beautiful, if I can call it a philanthropy that on part of those people who arrange these things without showing off. So that is a beautiful part of this whole practice. And I think, with forums like these, people like us come together and, listen to each other. And I can tell you this as well, that I'm really raring to go back to Manchester, because I have an iftari tomorrow evening and another iftari, subsequent evenings. I have iftaris all around the place. And it gives you an opportunity to come together, and I see on these iftaris non-Muslims as well, and they come and they then break fast with you, just to give you this impression that we are all part of the same culture. So this was all from me. I congratulate Kasra once again. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for making this happen. And also Sumera for hosting this as well. You're in Pakistan. I can see from the light shade and all that. You're in Pakistan.
Yes.
Cool.
We are from Pakistan. Mrs. Hashmi and myself, we are from Pakistan. We are reporting directly from Lahore.
So you have already done your iftar, I assume.
Not yet.
Okay. Still time to go. So have fun. Have a great time, because I have to leave you, and I have to take off to the airport and get a flight to Manchester. So see you all some other time. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you very much, Tariq Saab, for joining us and for pointing out some very pertinent points. For instance, the humanity that Ramadan teaches you, and the care which you show to everybody around you, and everybody just comes together. So coming back to Madam Moneeza Hashmi, and I'll be sharing the screen once again. And yes, here we are. We were talking about iftar, and let's move to the reward of Ramadan now. And that is this time of the year, the festivity.
Yes, which is the Eid al-Fitr, which is Eid, which is the biggest festival that we have in Pakistan and probably in other Muslim countries as well, of course. And the very, 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 very huge expectation of starting from the children and going up to the elders. The question is, everybody has to wear new clothes, everybody has to have new shoes, everybody has to make sure that they are washed and clean and have a bath, and so that they can say their early prayers in the morning. All the girls have to have henna on their hands, which we call mehndi, and then bangles and different decorations. The boys, of course, will wear their traditional shalwar kurta, which is a tunic, and which is a trouser at the end. And then, of course, comes the main one of the main things that we are talking about, Eid al-Fitr, which is, of course, the prayer, because everybody is expected to, whoever can, the males are expected to attend the prayer at the mosque. Of course, in Lahore, the largest congregation is at the Badshahi Mosque, which is one of the most beautiful mosques in the world, and probably not now exactly the largest, but certainly was one of the largest at one time. And the women say their prayers at home. That is a tradition. And then, of course, after the prayers, which is a very extremely important and, shall we say, culmination of this wonderful festival, then comes the actually, as we call it, the hugging, that you go 3 times to the right, to the left, to the right. As you can see in these photographs, the children, that is also a tradition, that you have to hug each other and to say Eid Mubarak, which means celebrate Eid. Mubarak means celebration, congratulations, that Eid. And of course, let me tell you, to be very honest, there is a huge sense of relief that although Ramadan was wonderful, one waits the whole year around for it. It is a cleansing of the soul. It is a cleansing of the mind. It is a spiritual connection with the Almighty and the book and the Prophet, peace be upon him. But of course, it is exhausting. Now, we are now in Pakistan stepping back 10 days at a time. So we've come into April, even though April was hot this year. But I was thinking in 3 years' time, when in March, Ramadan will be certainly more comfortable. But I have done Ramadan in June and July, when the temperatures have been absolutely terrible. And it has been almost up to a 16, 17-hour fast. So anyway, so Eid is over. Everybody's happy. And it's a new beginning. And it's, in a manner of speaking, the new year for us Muslims.
Exactly. So so this was Ramadan of your times, and as you said that it never used to be Ramadan, it was Ramadan.
No, but let me say, Sumera, 2 things that I need to say. Nowadays, I mean, this was the great joy was of preparation for the iftars at home, the pakoras that are made, the chaat, the fruit chaat, which means lots of fruit and so on and so forth. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, I shouldn't say that.
You have these.
have changed. Now what happens is available in restaurants. So
right in front of you.
in the morning, go to restaurant and you have a buffet, or it's a very buffet.
Exactly.
At 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it seems impossible. And I have been to get from my bedroom to the kitchen and back months in advance. Restaurants are booked months in advance. So people like to do that. They like to go for sari. And I believe there are beauty parlors that take appointments that ladies get dressed. Oh yes, they go to the beauty parlors and they get dressed because they're going to a sari party. I mean, a star party, I can understand. Sari party at 3 o'clock in the morning. Jesus. And there are people, my grandchildren included, I hope they're not listening, who sleep after sari, who sleep after 3 o'clock, after the wedding. And then of course, they sleep in the middle of the day.
Yes. So
behaviors have changed, attitudes have changed. Yeah, well, that's the way we are moving ahead. And now, not yet. There's still 3 more minutes to go. I will get a knockout. So now that was our Eid and Eid al-Fitr that we look forward to 15 days from now. But I think we should talk about Sumera. I think we should talk about the other festivals.
Yes,
of
we
Pakistan.
Yes,
starting
we must.
Today, because as we know, today we are celebrating Easter.
Yes.
The world over, but even in Pakistan, we are celebrating Easter, and we all know what Easter is. Of course, it is a
I think since we have 3 or 4 minutes per your iftar to go. So meanwhile, we start to talk about, but before we talk about Easter, which obviously is today, and a very happy Easter to everybody who's watching us and people around the world as well. So let's talk about a little about Lahore, because Lahore in itself is a cultural hub. Because you talk about the walled city, the places which are being preserved now. So tell us a little about that. Tell the people who are listening to you.
Okay, so there is an organization that was formed a few years ago, which was the Walled City Lahore Authority, and they have in collaboration with the Aga Khans and other donors as well, World Bank and so on and so forth, started preserving several beautiful monuments of the city, which over the years, unfortunately, due to whatever reason, due to weather, due to time, due to expansion of people, too many population, etc., have started deteriorating. So now Lahore is being preserved, as it was said, and there are certain buildings which it started with the big fort, the huge fort, which was built by Shah Jahan, as we know, and so on and so forth. So it started with the fort, and around the fort, at one time, ladies and gentlemen, I may say, I'm sure people who know history and who know Lahore understand that at one time the Lahore city revolved, or actually was focused around the fort, because the fort was where the king was, and the king ruled the city from there. So all the big buildings, all the important buildings were around the fort. So around the fort is the places where they started preserving it. And it started by, actually now what's happened is that there is now a food street. They have built a food street which is just outside the Lahore fort. So you can buy and see and have all the actual food of Lahore, meat-loving city and a meat-loving country. So the kebabs and all of that is available there. Then comes so many other buildings that they have preserved, which have been done beautifully, which is, there is a Shahi Hammam, which was a place of bathing or something of the kings at that time. So that has been preserved beautifully. The royal kitchen, which has been preserved beautifully. A huge wall outside the Lahore fort has been preserved beautifully. The mosaic has been brought to life again, absolutely beautiful. And of course, several other buildings have have been preserved by the WCLA. So the city itself is absolutely now looking better, happier, more welcoming for our guests. And of course, it is a city which has so much history. It has a city which has so much of literature. It has a city which has so much of culture, all there for the last hundreds and hundreds of years. So that is the city of Lahore, which is called the cultural hub of Lahore, the literature hub of Lahore, the films that used to be made of Lahore, the gardens of Lahore. So these places are very, very famous. And of course, the beautiful buildings, which have also been left there, or also part of our colonial history, which is the government house, which are so many other buildings which still bear that particular touch of our colonial history that we do own, and that is a part of our
And
heritage.
let's talk, if we're talking about that, let's talk about Lahore Museum, because that's one place which is preserving a lot of such stuff.
The Lahore Museum is one of the most beautiful museums of the country. Of course, there are museums in every city, but the Lahore Museum is the most beautiful museum, I believe so. And it has the most beautiful pieces, Gandhara pieces. The Gandhara pieces belong to, of course, the Gandhara period, which is the Buddha period of that.
It's your azan, it's azan time. It's the time you break your fast.
So I suggest you take over while I do my.
Yes, I am taking over. I'm taking over. So while she is breaking her fast, that we can see that she's busy with that. I guess, Mariam, if we could talk to Paul meanwhile, who's with us, and we are very delighted to have him. So again, over to you, Mariam.
Thank you very much, Sumera. So now I have the honor of inviting our chief guest, Paul Griffiths, the Deputy Lieutenant of Greater Manchester, to say a few words. But before I invite him, I'd like to say a few words about him. So Paul Griffiths was appointed Deputy Lieutenant of Greater Manchester in 2004. In this role, he supports the Lord Lieutenant Sir Warren Smith, KCVO, Her Majesty the Queen's personal representative in Greater Manchester, in the performance of his duties. Paul is a former Vice Lord Lieutenant from 2017 to 2020, and also a former High Sheriff from 2013 to 2014. He is currently the chairman of the monastery in Manchester, which is a charity he co-founded with his wife, Eileen, in 1996 to save Gortin Monastery from ruin. Thank you very much for presiding over the event, Paul, and we really appreciate your support and interest in our festival. Over to you.
Mariam, thank you very much indeed. Hello, everybody. Happy Easter and Ramadan Mubarak. It's lovely to be here with you all. And I'm fascinated to hear the background and history to Lahore as well. So thank you for that, Sumera. Delighted to be joining on this day of celebration of the Ramadan Festival. And as Kezra mentioned earlier, I've had the great pleasure over some years now to be part of MACFEST festivals in the UK, and it's been my privilege to be here also today. It's such an important day, as we've heard, for festivals, and not only Ramadan, of course. I know that Moneeza has mentioned also the Easter Festival, Easter Sunday today. So very important time for many people across the world. So it's great to be here with so many people from across the world too. It's really great. Now, as we've heard already, Ramadan is such an important Muslim festival in terms of the opportunity for spiritual reflection and reawakening, the time to spend with family and friends, clearly very important as well, and a time for helping others, those who are less fortunate than we are in the world, that we can help them even more, which is great. This month, as we've heard, MACFEST will be celebrating all month through the arts and culture, both in the UK, but also across globally across the world, which is important. And it's great to have the insight, I think, into different cultures and different faiths and different beliefs in this wonderful world of ours. Grateful hosts, thanks to our hosts in Pakistan, Sumera. It's good to see you and to learn more about, thank you, about your wonderful country. And to see your smiling face on the screen is also very pleasant too, thank you. And also to hear, as we will again in a few minutes, from Moneeza Hashmi vis-a-vis her book, her new book, which is being launched, about conversations with her late father, who, as many of you will know, is one of the most celebrated writers in the Urdu language in Pakistan, a very famous man indeed. So I can't wait to hear more about that particular book. And finally from me, just to explain a little bit about the Lieutenancy in Greater Manchester. It's such a privilege to be involved with the Lord Lieutenant in terms of looking after and representing the interests of Her Majesty in Greater Manchester, but especially to become involved with volunteer groups, which clearly MACFEST is a prime classic example of a wonderful volunteer group led by Kezra. MACFEST itself won a Queen's Award from Her Majesty 1 or 2 years ago now. My time is not quite clear in my mind, but a Queen's Award for voluntary service from Her Majesty the Queen 1 or 2 years ago. Fantastic. And it's wonderful to be able to learn through volunteers and share experiences through volunteers. And a lot of the work that we do in the Lieutenancy is to help, encourage, support, and motivate people to do an even better job in whatever way they're doing it. So for me today, it's a tremendous privilege to be here, as ever. I'm looking forward to learning more, not only about Ramadan, but also to learning more from Moneeza about the book, which is being trailed a few times now, and learning more about the conversations with your late father, Moneeza. But from me to everybody online, congratulations on a wonderful presentation already, and good luck to everyone through the period of Ramadan, and congratulations on everything you're doing, which is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. It was amazing listening to you, and thank you for being here. So meanwhile, Mrs. Moneeza Hashmi is breaking her fast, and she's having a little snack. I'll take you to our virtual tour of the Lahore Museum, as we talked about it. So it's a wonderful place, which you will just see in a while, that it's very well preserved. And on the website, if you go to the website of the Lahore Museum, so here you see, so this is a virtual, you can go to the contemporary painting gallery, and you can see how wonderful it is. And this is an amazing tour. And while sitting at your homes, particularly, you know that COVID-19 just made everybody stay at home and do everything from online. Zoom came, and a lot of other possibilities were there related to technology. So this virtual tour is one of such opportunities as well. So since we do not have much time at hand, so it's just a glimpse that I'm giving you. And when you go to the home of the web page of Lahore Museum, you'll end up having this tour for yourself, and I'm sure everybody would want to do this and enjoy it. There's this. So you can click to different areas of the museum, and you can visit that. So I guess people who are watching us online would love to have a virtual visit of our Lahore Museum. And Mrs. Hashmi is back with us. So while we are talking about Lahore's culture, it's very pertinent to mention the festivals. We have not a festival, but we have a myriad of festivals happening, several festivals happening. So Ms. Hashmi, take us to a round of the festivals.
Okay, so there are several of them. Some of them are associated with culture. Some of them are associated with the religion. Some of them are associated with literature. Some of them are associated with traditions. So on and so forth. And of course, I would like to give it an interfaith description so that we understand all the ones that we have. So let's begin with one of the largest festivals that Lahore holds, and that is called the Mela Charaga. Now, the Mela Charaga means lamp. It means lamp. And this is an urs, and urs means an annual festival to celebrate that particular time when that person died. Now, Madhu Shah Lal Hussain was one, how should we call it, a religious
Sufi
man,
poet. Sufi
a
poet.
Sufi poet in his own way. And it's a 3-day festival. It's been being held there since the 16th century. And their dance, it's next to the Shalimar Gardens, which is a huge place, which was built, of course, by the Mughals. And here in this festival is where mystics, Sufis come, lots of prayers, devotees come, they come and pray at his shrine, and they ask for, whatever is in the hearts and whatever they want to do. And of course, they light small little lamps. And those lamps, that is why it's called Mela Charaga. And there's a lot of dance and a lot of music, a lot of poetry, and lots of activity there at that time. And there we see, and you can see it on your screen, the lamps and so on and so forth. And I have not been there in my lifetime because it's very, very crowded. But from the people who have gone there say that it's really a happening place, and it's a happy place. It's a happy place full of music, dhols, the drums that beat, and so on and so forth. After that, we can also talk about, now we go to Vaisakhi. Vaisakhi, which apparently happened yesterday, I believe, is a Sikh festival. And this festival is celebrating the crops. Now, of course, climate change, unfortunately, has come in, so it's not exactly that simple. But basically, Vaisakhi is, as you know, Lahore is on the border with India. So the Sikh festival of the crops. So again, a festival of happiness. It's a kind of a moving in from the spring into the summer, and therefore the crops are being celebrated because it's going to be a new year, and so on and so forth. So that's the fun of it. There used to be, it's very unfortunate, it has now been discontinued, but there used to be a festival which is a very, very big festival, which was called the Basant Festival. And that used to happen around February, which was the passing or the saying goodbye to winter and celebrating the spring. And this is a festival which the main color used to be yellow, saffron yellow. And it was known for kite flying. Across Lahore, the sky used to be full of colorful kites. Young boys, young girls, old. And again, this used to be kite flying competitions. You used to be on one roof, the other person would be on the other roof, and then you were supposed to have a competition and see whose kite was going to fly the highest. And drums and food and lots of celebration on that Sunday. This used to go on for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, it was discontinued some years ago because of the fact that the kite string was then being made with, just to make it stronger, was being made with crushed glass. And sometimes this would affect or cut somebody or some child or some person and causing deaths. And because of that, then the government decided that they had to discontinue. So that was very unfortunate, but that is the way it is. Then there is a Shivratri festival, which is a festival for the Hindus, our Hindu brethren. They have this celebration of Lord Shiva. And this is also happens in certain areas where there is more of a Hindu population, which is basically Sindh in Pakistan, and some very few in Lahore and places like that, but mostly concentrated in Sindh. So these are the festivals. Then let's come to the modern festivals.
Let's categorize these, Ms. Hashmi, as you're talking about. So just to tell our audience about it, we talked about the religious festivals, we talked about the cultural festivals as well. Now, there are two types of other festivals which have started to happen and throb the environment of Lahore a lot. They are literary festivals.
That's
And
right.
I would like to mention here that one of these festivals is hosted by you, because it's related to your very dear father, Faiz Ahmed Faiz, who's one of the most prominent figures in the history of Pakistan, one of the most celebrated poets. So that's Faiz Festival. So before you talk about it, and before we ask you that what is the purpose of this festival, to our audience, I would like to show a little glimpse of the festivity that we have during this festival. So let's watch a video.
Fine.
So that's fine. That's fine. Our audience knows that you're breaking your fast. That's totally fine.
This is a pakoda, which is a very, very integral part of the Rosa Iftar in my house. Sorry.
What were you eating, Sister Moneeza? What was this? Pakoda.
Quite intriguing for everybody.
Okay, so the Faiz Festival, which is, we've had 6 so far. We used to, this is a celebration of Faiz Sab's birthday, which is in February of every year, 13th of February. And the idea of this festival, it's a 3-day festival. And the idea of this festival is that we bring in people from across Pakistan as well as abroad, as well as England and so on and so forth, who come and talk about his work. And the focus is, of course, on the mission and the vision of human rights, human dignity, tolerance, love, and trying to live with people in peace. Peace is basically the idea. So we have sessions of book launches. We have discussions on peace topics. We have dances, as you just saw. We have songs, because there is no festival of Faiz without the singing of, without putting his poetry to music. So we have all the top singers of Pakistan performing. We have Arda Parveen, we have Ali Sethi, we have Tina Sani, and so on and so forth. So that's what happened. Then, of course, we bring in guests from India, from across the world, to come and speak about what they would do, of film and literature and everything else. And one of, I think, the most important part is that we also have outdoor. This is held in Alhambra, which is, of course, one of the biggest venues of Lahore. And we have outside, we have so many other activities happening, which are, and this is all free, by the way. There is no charge on this festival. And this year, because it was held after 2 years, it was phenomenal. The presence was phenomenal. The attendance was phenomenal. Thousands of people come here to come together, to meet, to talk, to discuss, to disagree, to agree, and so on and so forth. And of course, because Faiz was very much a political figure in his own right, so there are political discussions as well. There are art exhibitions. So if any of you friends who are listening and would like to visit Lahore, I would suggest come next year in February to the Faiz Festival. That's the most beautiful time of the year. The flowers are out, the weather is springy, there's cool air, and come and mix and talk and see a part of Lahore that you would not see otherwise. So that's the Faiz Festival. There's another festival that is also happening at that time. So it's called the Lahore Literary Festival. And that festival also is, but that is more focused on literature. And it's talking about literature, promoting new books, promoting different types of authors who come also. So that is also one of the biggest festivals that we have. And one of the other kind of cultural festivals which are promoting artifact, art and culture in the sense of clothes, jewelry, young entrepreneurs who want to promote their small enterprises. That is called the Duchy Festival. That again was huge this year because it was held after 2 years. And as you can see on the screen, everybody from all across Pakistan, these young artisans come and sell their goods at very reasonable prices, all handicrafts, beautiful handicrafts, embroideries and anything that you, ceramics, soaps, jewelry, anything. This is also held around March or so, just before Ramadan. It is usually the time that it's held. So these are the big festivals that happen in Lahore. And of course, there are small minor ones too, but these are the major ones that happen. So these are the festivals that we were talking about. And I hope we presented a beautiful picture of Lahore to you, of Pakistan to you, and the festival itself. Thank you.
Yes.
Now,
so before I move on to, there is a lot. No, you can eat in front of everybody now because you've earned it. You fasted the whole day. And so you are, as I mentioned in the beginning, you have a lot of firsts at your hand, at your credit. And one of those firsts, you just mentioned that you are the chairperson of the Board of Governors for the biggest art community that we have in Lahore. Not only in Lahore, in Punjab, I would say, Lahore Arts Council. So tell us a little bit about the life in Lahore Arts Council, because I guess that accumulates the life of Lahore in general as well.
Lahore Arts Council is a place, an institution, an organization. I would say institution, yes, in itself. It was again founded by my father way back in the 60s, and it is, and hopefully will remain a major focus of promoting art and culture of Punjab. And it has art exhibitions, it has drama, it has theater, it has music. Music is taught, art is taught, and it has the most beautiful building, which has 3 auditoriums, huge auditoriums, the best auditoriums in the city. And it's absolutely amazing, the whole city itself. If you can see it now, it's absolutely amazing. The grounds, etc. So this place is a place wherever you want to hold any kind of an exhibition or an event, Arts Council or Lahore Arts Council is the venue. And I have the privilege of being the first female to be heading this, the Board of Governors. And we are now, of course, going into the summer, so we sort of take a break. But otherwise, this is a place which is absolutely brimming and absolutely full of activity. There's hardly a day or half a day that you can actually find space there, because everything is happening there all the time. So this is a place that if you come to Lahore, is a must visit. You must come and see it. It's really, and of course, it's also been awarded the Aga Khan Award for one of the most beautiful buildings of Pakistan by Nagar Ali Dada, who's one of our most renowned architects. So that's what it is.
Yes. So for the friends who are watching us, you just saw a virtual tour of Lahore Arts Council on your screens as well. So all these images, all these virtual tours that I'm showing you right now, will give the links to these for your help under the program, which you can see on Facebook right now, because this program is streaming live on Facebook and Twitter as well. So yes, now the moment which everybody kind of has been waiting for. And that's before I go there, let me share the screen and bring that image in front of everybody. So we've been talking a lot about the book. The book, exactly, the book. And let me just start the slideshow. Yes, we talked about the craft festival. These are a few glimpses of the religious festivals. Yes, Conversations with my father. 40 years on, a daughter responds. So Mrs. Hashmi, 40 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And that's the book in my hand as well. So yes, it's a lot. It took me 40 years to write this book. My father, as I was mentioning earlier, was a man of progressive thought. So he was a person who was not very popular with any government of Pakistan, because he was a man who used to speak up through his poetry, of course. And therefore, he was somebody who was twice or thrice in his life forced to self-exile. So when he was in self-exile, the longest time, this was in the 80s, during the military dictatorship. So he wrote me letters, and those letters I saved. And then I came back. I mean, over the years, I kept thinking that I need to bring those letters out. So this is actually a book in which you will find the letters that he wrote to me and my reply to those letters now, today, which is a rather interesting dialogue, because I am talking to a person who's not there, but I'm sharing a part of my life, parts of my life, which he unfortunately did not share, was not there. And therefore, I would like him to be definitely someone who stays with me. I am the younger daughter of Faiz Faiz. And because of being the younger one, therefore, in a manner of speaking, I was at a disadvantage because I was always sort of in the background. And I felt that I lost a lot of time with him. So that is why he has been now gone almost 40 years. He died in 1984, 38 years. So I felt that it is now time to tell him about myself, because I never actually did at that time. Because one, I was young, I was just married, and so on and so forth. And then I was doing working in television. So the television work was in itself something very, very, very demanding. And therefore I used to hardly have any time. Then I had two sons who now, of course, are fathers themselves. So therefore there was hardly any time to sit with the father and talk to him and share moments with him. And then he himself was traveling. He himself was abroad. Sometimes he was in jail. So I just felt that I needed to unburden myself, to have this catharsis that I have spoken to him and told him everything as a friend, as a confidant, as someone who I wanted to share this with. And you know, Sumera, at this time in my life, and the world is really in a very, very difficult position, very tumultuous time, not only in Pakistan, as we know right now, but otherwise as well. I wish there were moments now when he was with us, and that one could go to him and ask him, what is happening? Because he had, of course, being a man of his stature, he had a complete understanding of the world affairs. And maybe he would have given us some idea of, this is happening, this is going to happen, don't worry, this is the way it's going. Because people of that caliber, people of that of such a genius would have a command of the world situation. Unfortunately, we now ourselves have to find answers to questions that we don't even understand. Right? So this is and plus, of course, I wanted to share happy moments with him, of my grandchildren, of the places I visited, many places that I have visited only following in his footsteps. Wonderful. I know that I went to Russia. This was when the USSR. I wanted to go there because I wanted to see what he used to see, because he was, of course, a Marxist. I went to Palestine. You can call it Israel if you like. I still call it Palestine. I wanted, because of his connection, his deep connection with the Palestinian cause of freedom. I wanted to visit them. I went to Iraq just very recently because I knew that he had gone to Iraq, and I wanted to walk in his footsteps. And there are several places that I have tried to follow in his footsteps. To Kashmir, he was married in Kashmir. At that time, of course, it was one country. So he was married in Kashmir. So I went actually to the place where he was married, that small guest house where he was actually married, which is now a college. So a lot of this kind of a journey of nostalgia. It's also a journey of sharing, and it's a kind of a biographical book.
Yes. Okay. So one thing which you just mentioned, that if he was to be in these times, I think he looked way ahead of his times and he gave us a few answers. So if you look at these times and you go back to his book, Nuskha-e-Wafa, and that's actually a nuskha. Nuskha is like a prescription. So people who I have actually read that book, they call it actually a prescription of a lot of problems. So he did say that माना कि ये सुनसान घड़ी सख्त कड़ी है, लेकिन मेरे दिल ये तो फकत एक ही घड़ी है, हिम्मत करो जीने को तो एक उम्र पड़ी है. So it means, if you translate it loosely, so it means that yes, agreed that this is a very dark hour, this is a very dark moment, but this is just a moment, it will pass. Carry on.
That's
courage. Courage, dear heart, there is a lifetime to come. And then another question which I have for you related to your book. So if you look at the structure of the book, for the people of England, I would love to say that you will be visiting England soon and you are going to do sort of a book tour for this book, where people can actually go and grab a copy for themselves. But other than that, the book is available on Amazon. People can still order and get a copy of the book. And it's a wonderful book to read. I'm not saying because I'm saying it, I'm saying because I've actually read the book. One question that I have in my mind. So if you look at the book, it's kind of divided into 3 parts. So in one part, you're talking to him about your childhood. You're talking to him about not the complaints, about very sweet moments between a daughter and a father. And you're sort of sharing those now. You didn't get a chance then. And then when you move on to the next part, then you are sharing about your now moments, your present with him. And then there are your achievements, like a proud father that he would be. You're sharing that with him. So tell us something about the structure of the book. How did you design the book to be in that way? Was it planned or it just came to you?
It was a moment when I was thinking of printing the book, bringing out just his letters, and then my younger son, he told me that this is something that has been done before, and this is very boring. So why don't you make something new, or try to give it a different kind of a concept, and make it into a different project. So then I thought about it, and I decided that how about writing a letter to him now? And every time I have shared this concept with different people, they have been quite amazed that how did that happen? That how did I, and somehow I'm a writer, if I can call myself a writer, who just sits down and just types away and writes away. So I would just sit and thank God for COVID. God help me for saying that. But it was that 1 year of doing nothing 2 years ago when I actually had the time to sit down and actually start thinking about it. And somehow these different chapters of my book just started developing. I'm not saying I'm very creative, but I suppose somewhat I am. But I'm just saying that sometimes, I feel, Sumera, that things happen. Sometimes you get a vision and you realize that that is the vision you want. And writing a book about a man who is so big, who is so hugely and widely loved and known, but only as a poet, only as a journalist, only as a visionary of human rights, and so on and so forth, but not as a father. That aspect was actually just known to 2 people, myself and my sister. So I thought that for posterity and for history, it is important to project and to put forward an image of a man, that what he was like as a father. And he was an amazing, amazing, amazing father who was never there. He was an absentee father, and I will to date hold that against him. And I think my last sentence in the book is, that you and I have a lot of talking to do when I get up there, which is true, because I never had time here, and I mention it. But then there are sacrifices that you make, and I have never been, and there is a chapter in that book which is very interesting, which is questions I never asked. And, yes, because I never had time. We never had time. So, there are so many questions, for example, that I wanted to ask, from him, that when you were informed that you were going to have another daughter, when you held me in your arms, what did you feel when you were going to jail and you saw me waving to you from a distance, and so on and so forth? There are lots of different questions that I have, and so on and so forth. So I think it's an interesting book to read. I had somebody comment the other day saying, it's like you're talking. So like I'm talking, I suppose I do talk a lot. So I think that's what's the interesting. So I think anybody who's familiar with the man would be interested to read this book, simply to know him as a different side of him. People know him as a poet, of course, and people know him as a Pakistani. People know him as a journalist. So I think this would be interesting reading for anybody, and it's light reading. And I wanted to have it in a kind of a form that somebody sitting at the airport can buy it and read it while waiting for the plane. So it's light reading, but it gives you, I think, some insight into my life, of course, if you're interested, but into the life of this great man. Thank you.
Thank you for saying this, because what I was going to next is very closely related to what you just said, that it's about reading about you. So since we are talking on an international forum, and I continue to say that you have been one of the most powerful women figures in our Pakistani media industry and other for cultural industry as well, and on many scenarios, as you are heading one of the most prestigious institutions right now, following your father's footsteps. So when you read the book, you get to know a lot about Faiz Ahmed Faiz, the poet, the father, the humane side, as you just mentioned. But we know a lot about Moneeza Hashmi as well, and the journey of Moneeza Hashmi, not the travels that you have mentioned, those two, but the picture which the audience can see right now, where you are sitting, in one picture, you are sitting with the then Prime Minister of Pakistan, the only female Prime Minister of Pakistan. And in the next picture, you are outside the Buckingham Palace, if I'm not wrong. So lady, we would like to know something about your struggle, your journey as well. So tell us something about that.
Well, I have had my ups and downs. Yes, I've been someone who's tried to walk in footsteps of great women, great wonderful women that I have known, who have been my mentors, but also hopefully that I have opened up the paths for a lot of other young ladies like yourself, I think, who are now walking the paths. And I think the best way to learn, or the best way to teach somebody, is to walk that path yourself. So yes, it was not easy. I took a job as a television director. We called them producers at that time. I was one of the first female producers. And then Pakistan has its ups and downs politically and otherwise also. And then belonging to a family, or I should say, coming from a family which was progressive, which was forward-looking, which was extremely connected to the people and the soil of Pakistan. So I did have difficult moments, and I was always, not always, there were a few moments when I was not, but mostly penalized for the fact that I was this man's daughter, and which only made me more strong and more determined. And then I took the path of trying to make programs or do programs for women. I introduced a lot of firsts in that as well. And I think I'm proud of that I have given the female or the women of Pakistan a voice through television, which I did. And at that time, don't forget, there was not just one channel, which was a public channel. Now, of course, we have hundreds. So it was not easy. It's never easy when you decide to do something new, and you decide to walk into a challenge and you say that I can do it. And there were times when there was never a time when I thought I would give up. I'm not that. I'm my mother's daughter. My mother was British. She married my father, of course, in the 1940s. And so I think I come from that stock. And I never gave up, and neither did he. I mean, he has had his, I'm sure, difficult times, but he was never somebody who gave up anything. So there are times when you need to have that determination, but that only comes if you know that if you think and you know you're on the right path, and you somehow, and then of course I had my faith, and I have my very strong faith, and I do believe that Allah is there to protect you and will help you. And of course, went forward with determination. Alhamdulillah, I had a family that backed me all the way, and I now have two boys, two sons, who of course fathers themselves. But and I hope that I am in some form or manner role model for my two friends. So no, it's not easy. It's not easy. There are moments when you have to backtrack and go back and reflect, and then come back again. And sometimes you come back. Not some. For me, it was always stronger, because I am that kind of person. I just do not give up. I intend to, and I like going for, and I like challenges, and I like trying to be someone who can help. And if I'm in a position now, I'm a senior citizen now, and by God's grace, alhamdulillah, people look up to me and come to me for advice. And I don't have anything other than to share with them except my life's experiences, and of course my father.
Yes. And I would mention here that as people will read this book, so it's not only a biography, it's an autobiography as well, as we just said. And then for people who are watching, this is another announcement that you have a YouTube channel as well, which they can look up to with the name of Moneeza Hashmi ke saath. And you did a series of interviews of all the leading personalities of Pakistan. That includes Ruth Fao, that includes Bilkis Eidi, that includes Banu Qudsiya, that includes Ishfaq Ahmed, and many of like giants of their times and or for the times to come as well. So tell us something about that.
Yeah, that was a program that I was inspired by from a program that I saw when I was a very young novice in television, which is called Face to Face. And I took it from there, and I decided that I'd like to. There are more than over 100 personalities that you can find there, including Benazir Bhutto, and of course all the actors, the singers, the authors, the painters, the dancers, the whatever you name them, they are there. And it's a very, very good program. And it's an interesting program because of many of them, not many, I would say even up to 80% of them are long gone now. Therefore, you see these young, you see a young Banu Qudsiya, or you see a young Farida Khanum, or you see a young Najira Noor, or you see a young Dali, and so on and so forth. And
yes, I guess there is again some internet disruption. So
wonderful discovery for me. We've spoken enough, don't you, Sumera? I think
yes,
the
yes.
listeners might be getting.
Yeah, I know. Yes, but the reason I brought up this question was that by looking at this book, and we started off by talking about Ramadan and Eid and all the festivities of Pakistan. So that's to show the most beautiful side of this country, that the softer side of this country, that we do celebrate, we do get together. Ramadan is still a communal activity. We still, all of us sat together on sahurs, and all of us sat together for iftar, and we are looking forward to Eid. The shopping for Eid has already started in the markets. They are throbbing with people, and they are buying bangles, and they're buying henna and new clothes and dresses and everything. So this was from Pakistan, and I think we did talk about a lot today. What do you say, Mrs. Hashmi? You did touch upon a lot of beautiful moments from your childhood. Like it was so beautiful to listen to your times when you were a kid and you would look up to getting up in the morning for sehri and for iftar. And that was all from our side. And would you like to say something before we say goodbye to our listeners?
Can I ask a question, Sumera ji?
Yes, sure. Why not?
The question relates to Sister Moneeza ji about her writing her life, and particularly she has two nationalities, British and Pakistani. And because this event is, hosted in Manchester in Britain, it'll be nice to hear what Sister Hashmi has to say about her British links. What's the best thing you think about Britain that you say, oh, I'm glad I'm also British too? And anything you want to say?
Well, actually, I've never, apart from the fact that I do live in Pakistan and I live in Lahore and I would never live anywhere else, I have spent so much time in England. I went to school there, and I went to a training school there. I did some training there as well. and I've done some lots and lots of visits there. I have never ever actually been able to separate both parts of my heritage from myself. I have been a very proud Pakistani, I am, and I would like to say that I'm also very proud Britisher in a manner of speaking. My mother's family lived there. I met them all, most of them. Some of them were in South Africa. But I met them there, and I would find myself absolutely in tune and identify with them. And I still have very, very, very good friends. They're friends from school, actually, who are still there, who I keep in touch with. So the moments, definitely, the moment I step off the plane, because I have two nationalities, the moment I step off the plane and I enter the United Kingdom, I feel at home. I really feel at home. I can immediately adapt. Now, I have this very sweet friend of mine who's also British but lives somewhere else. And she said, you know, it's very wonderful very surprising to see a Pakistani, because she said to me one day when I was in England with her, and she said, okay, here you are, here's an eider down. I said, fine. So she turned around, she said, you know what that means? I said, yeah, sure, I know what that means. So she said, it's very interesting to have a Pakistani understand the English vocabulary so easily, as if it's like second skin. I said, yeah, because apart from the fact that I have not grown up there, but I have grown up with that background with my mother and reading and so on and so forth. So I have never felt at all from another nationality, another country when I have stepped into England. And when I have stepped back into Lahore, I am back into Pakistan. And I mean, roast lamb, fish and chips, all of that is very much a part of my favorite menu. Strawberries and creams. Well, actually, we now started getting strawberries here as well. But scones. I mean, you know, you just walk in and you just say, "Oh God," and you just feel at home.
What about your mom? What about your mother, Alice? You want to say anything about her?
My mother, God rest her soul in peace. As yes, of course, I would like to. I would like to give her credit here, the greatest credit here. That I think, if I may say so, if Faz was as great as he was, which he was, part of it he owed to the fact that Alice was his wife, because Alice was that steadfast, strong woman who never made him feel that he was, you know, in a situation where he was not giving her the best. She was the Marxist. She was a member of the Marxist Communist Party of England. He was not. And she was his complete support and she had his back, as they said. And she's a woman who sacrificed so much to be with the man she loved. She sacrificed her home. She sacrificed her family, her nationality, her culture, her country, everything, just to come to a country. And we are looking at the 40s, 30s, 40s, the subcontinent, which was not such a civilized, if I may call it, in a manner of speaking, or a modern country, you know. And she would get angry. She would get angry at the heat. She would get angry at the flies. She would get angry at the lizards, at the cockroaches, all of that, you know, and all the poverty and the women and the deprivation of women. And then, of course, she saw partition and all of that. She suffered. And then to be without her husband and two small children, a husband in jail under death sentence. He was under death sentence for several months. And she fought his case. She fought his case right through those 4 years until he came out. So, I mean, she had a tough life. And of course, hand to mouth. I don't deny it, and there's nothing to deny. There were times when she would get up in the morning and wonder what we would actually have for dinner and stuff like that. And there were hard times, guys, very, very hard times. So I give her full credit for all of that, and then still staying there, fighting it out, and today lying buried next to him. Yes, she was a great woman.
Thank you so
That's
much.
wonderful. Thank you so much. And I would mention here that both of us from Pakistan have a very close connection with Kesra Shiraz. Let me tell you how. So Madam Moneeza Hashmi has worked on one of the plays, I guess, when she was working in PTV. The play was it was written by Kesra Shiraz. And I have worked in my MPhil thesis on one of the novels written by Kesra, of course, the Holy Woman. So we do have a very close connection to the lady herself. And now finally, I can say that thank you very much for bearing with us, for listening to us. And thank you very much to Moneeza Hashmi, despite of the fact that she was fasting and it was a very, very warm and hot day in Lahore, one of the hottest, I would say. And to bear with us, thank you very much, everybody. Over to Mariam again.
Thank you very much, Sumera. Thank you very much, Sister Moneeza Ji, for sharing what Ramadan was like in Pakistan and also what it was like in your time. It has been amazing watching all the festivals you shared with us and the beautiful sights of Lahore. I really hope I can visit one day. And also congratulations once again on your book, Sister Moneeza Ji. We look forward to reading it. And I'd like to say a big thank you to our chief guests for gracing this event and also to our attendees, both old and new. Many thanks for making the time to join us always. Now on to our next event. Which will be celebrating the end of Ramadan, which is called Eid al-Fitr. So which will be in 2 weeks' time. So we'll be taking you to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates to experience the celebration of Eid. And the week after, we'll be taking you to Eid celebration in Indonesia. The screen you can view right now is an Iftar event that will be taking place in Manchester. So to all our audience that are in the Northwest that can join us, so please join us at the Kisra Mosque at Cheetham Hill next week, Sunday. And to our international audience, join us in 2 weeks' time for the Eid Festival from Dubai and Indonesia. So thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Mariam.
Thank you.
Thank you.